Okay, we have gone live.
Hello.
Yeah. So, good afternoon, all. A warm welcome. Sorry, there was some lag in going live, so I stopped. Yeah. So, good afternoon, all. A warm welcome to all the dignitaries, the esteemed speaker, and our dear adolescent. We are thrilled and excited to have you all at the International Adolescent Health Week and the CACHW 2022 celebration by Adolescent Health Academy Navi Mumbai and IIP Navi Mumbai. We have planned plethora of activities here during this celebration. It consists of dynamic participatory event to inspire adolescents and their communities to advocate for a successful transition to adulthood. So I first welcome our dear President, Dr. Jitendra Gavane, sir, to please say a few words.
Good afternoon, all. It is a proud privilege to see the Navi Mumbai Adolescent Academy growing to the leaps and bounds within a span of 2 years. Just last year, we inaugurated our branch, and these ladies gang is taking us to the journey and taking to the newer heights day by day. So I congratulate Vaswani madam for her leadership and Chitra madam for constant guidance and taking all together, and Shruti and Kalyani, of course, Amog. So this year also they have planned plethora of activities. We started with yesterday as a Daughters Day celebration, first Sunday of Adolescent Week, and today we have special guest Dr. Newton. Welcome, sir, to the Navi Mumbai IIP platform. I wish best of luck to the activities and request Dr. Kalyani to carry forward.
Thank you, sir. Friends, it is said that we cannot always build the future for our youth, but we can build our youth for the future. So let's be the wind beneath their wings and help them soar high in the sky of success. Today's session is absolutely unique. It is one of its kind. Why? I'll tell you. During this session, we are going to understand what our adolescents feel, what is their confusion, what are their questions, what are their fears. And we are doing this without judging them. For this, we have a wonderful esteemed speaker today and equally wonderful moderator, Dr. Chitra Kulkarni ma'am. She is a seasoned pediatrician and adolescent specialist from Navi Mumbai. Here, I give all in your hands, ma'am. Please carry forward the talk.
Thank you, Kalyani. And may I introduce Dr. Newton? Please share his slide. You know, Dr. Newton is like सुलझा हुआ speaker. हम कहेंगे कि इनके तो पैर पकड़ने चाहिए. And the subject will be so much clear to you at the end that you will appreciate his abilities. And his talk on sleep is so much impressive. Everybody can learn something from it. That is a different subject. And sir has given nearly more than 200 talks on adolescence and published 410 books on child care. He is a very good community worker, and last year in 2020 in COVID times, he has done a community activity in Kerala for adolescents and parents where he incorporated all specialties as well as judiciary also for that. and the kids were enriched with the knowledge of legal rights, their responsibility, and sexuality. We know this year's theme is transition, and the transition is not only physical, mental, or sexual, but there is another aspect also about it, is making these adolescents ready for that. And that has kick-started today from Dr. Newton's lecture, which both the boys and girls are going to enjoy. Over to Dr. Newton for starting. Any other celebrity in between? If you want to invite Kalyani, please let me know.
No, ma'am. We'll carry forward. No, ma'am. We'll carry forward with the talk.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. The screen is yours.
Yes. Good afternoon. I'll start by sharing my slides. Can you see the slides?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right. So, good afternoon to all of you. So, to all, especially to all the teenagers who are listening to my talk, I come all the way from Kerala, and I'm very happy, very proud to be given this chance to speak to adolescents all the way from Navi Mumbai. A city that I've come to, I have visited many times. So today's topic is about teen transition. And transition is very important. You are transiting from and how during this transition, boys must treat themselves with respect. So what is adolescence? Adolescence is the transition phase from the child below the age of 10 years to the adult over 20 years. Adolescence is that gap in between 10 to 19 years, the period when you are changing from childhood into adulthood. A dramatic change that is occurring. Already, some of you have noticed, some of you, the older adolescents, are already as tall as your parents, or perhaps even taller. And you have also noticed, most of you, that you are becoming very intelligent, that your intelligence is dramatically increasing. You are now thinking of many aspects of life that you have never thought about before. So you're very proud of the fact that your intelligence is increasing, not just physically growth, but even your mental growth, your intelligence is increasing dramatically. Well, I have good news for you. At 15 to 18 years, you think that you have attained a lot of intelligence. The good news is that by 25, you will peak and you will have twice as much intelligence as you have today. So that is the dramatic change that you are going to occur. But is it enough to have physical change and intellectual change? You must also have emotional maturation. You must also have social maturity so that you can lead a happy life. Those transitions also should take place properly, and that is what today's talk is all about. Look at these pictures. Look at the picture on the left. You have two persons there, two children, and are they male or female? You cannot really say. They look exactly the same, males and females. The only way you can differentiate is that we deliberately create a difference by asking the females to have long hair and to wear frocks, and by having the males to have short hair and to wear short pants and shirt. When it comes to the adults, there's no doubt about the difference. Whatever clothes they wear, it's quite obvious. The males have broader shoulders and they have a little mustache and beard. Some of you have already started that. And the females, they have broad hips and they have breasts. So the difference is obvious. So actually, when you see those pictures on the left, you realize that those children, that there's actually not much of a difference between the male child, the boy and the girl. The only difference is in adulthood. And what is the difference? In adulthood, the reproductive system becomes mature. The reproductive system, the part of the body that is hidden within your underwear, that's the only part that is totally different in the male and in the female. There are other minor changes to the immune system, the system which protects you from infections. It is much stronger in females than in males. Now we are going through a COVID pandemic, and millions, around 6 million have died, of which 4 million are male and 2 million are female. The males live, the females have so much more immune power that for every 2 males who die, only 1 female has died. Okay. the musculoskeletal system. This is obviously much more powerful. The muscles and the bones are much stronger and larger in the male. But if you take all the other systems, for example, the digestive system, urinary system, heart, lungs, brain, they're all the same. You take the brain, the male has an average IQ of 100, the female has an average IQ of 100. So other systems are all similar. Other than the reproductive system, their boys and girls are very, very similar, though they look quite different. Unfortunately, this difference used to be emphasized in the past, which is not right. How do we bring up girls? We bring them, boys up and girls up in different manner. Girls, we bring them as dainty darlings. They should be clean and neat and tidy all the time, right? That's good. And they should be brought obedient and quiet and well-behaved. Now, that is what we tell the girls, and good for them. That's how all girls should be. That's how all boys should be. How lucky the girls are, how lucky the boys would be if they were also expected to be like this. Unfortunately, our society is a little different. It is a little prejudiced. The boys are not expected to be very clean or neat or tidy, which is a little sad. And there's a reason for this. 100 years ago, 200 years ago, what was the situation then? In those days, men had to be tough in order to survive. Men had to be tough. They were, in those days, you have to survive. There was no computers. There was no machinery. People want to survive. The men have to do hard physical labor in order to survive. So in such a situation, it was difficult for the men to be clean and neat and tidy all the time. They had to do hard labor all the time. So they were not giving much importance to them. Men had to be aggressive in order to survive in the world. So boys are mischievous. Okay, boys and girls are mischievous, but the girls, when they are mischievous, they are told not to be mischievous. They are corrected. They are even scolded if required. Boys, if they are mischievous, boys are supposed to be aggressive. It's okay if they are mischievous. Boys will be boys. They have to outgrow it. We take the boys' mischief for granted, and frequently we do not correct them. And so they don't learn. We allow them to be more aggressive than is necessary. They answer back, oh, it's okay for boys, saucy. They behave aggressive. A little aggression is good, but too much of aggression, we are encouraging that aggression in boys by tolerating that aggression. This was the attitude 100 years ago. That is not the right attitude in the modern 21st century. See, the problem is, it's not that aggression is bad. It's not that a competitive spirit is bad. It's too much of aggression. That when we encourage aggression in childhood, too much of aggression is definitely bad. You see these two boys fighting, and on the roads, sometimes you'll see men fighting just like this. You don't see women fighting like this. Okay, too much of physical aggression is bad. Now there's a war going on in Ukraine. And they started off thinking they'll win the war easily, but they are not winning so easily. And so what has happened now, the Russian army is bombing residential areas, houses, and even hospitals. They are killing. Thousands have died. And who is dying? Not just soldiers, but even ordinary people like you and me, adults, male, female, and even children. That is bad. Why is it that all these wars, which have been so common in the past, why is it that all these wars are always led by men, one Putin, one Hitler, Genghis Khan? Why is it that all through the history of mankind, there has been war and war and war in the past? 100 and 200 years ago, war was so routine, it was taken for granted, and therefore men were supposed to be very aggressive, so trained to be aggressive from childhood, and that is why boys were allowed to be, aggressive, so that they will grow up into aggressive adults. Today, war is a crime. War is becoming a rarity for most of us. Why should we encourage so much aggression in children? So that is my first message to you, that aggression, that too much of aggression is very bad even for boys. And this is my second message, that when we grow up into adulthood, it's not only physical and intellectual change that should occur, transition, but also an emotional transition should occur. We should learn to respect. Boys and girls should learn to respect the differences between them. A social maturation should occur. Only then will boys and girls grow up happily interacting with each other in the right way. And that only then will the transition into adulthood be complete. Here are some common examples, not so much in your generation, but very much more common in the adult generation, like our generation. But even in yours, it is there. Eve teasing. What is eve teasing? Basically, is just ragging. It's insulting girls, talking badly to them. Why? If you, one of the reasons, like you see, generally it occurs in groups. Boys in a group making fun of a girl, making nasty comments about her, perhaps making just funny comments, but making comments that she doesn't like, saying nasty things, maybe writing some funny pornographic words on the blackboard in the class when the teacher's not around. Boys trying to hurt girls. Why? Is that the way you should behave towards girls? And why does this happen? One of the reasons is because lots of boys, they look tough, but they are cowards. It's natural in our age for boys to want to talk to girls and for girls to want to talk to boys. That's how it should be. So a boy wants to talk to a girl, but he's too embarrassed to go and talk to her. Supposing when I talk to her, she rejects me. She does not show interest in me. She's not impressed by me. So this boy is too shy to go and talk to her, to the girl. What does he do? When he is in a group, he makes some comment about that girl, maybe a pleasant comment, maybe a complimentary comment, but he's making a comment in a group which makes the girl embarrassed. And if she doesn't respond, he's hoping that she'll respond with a smile, and then it's easier for him to approach her. Or he might make a nasty comment, and he doesn't have the guts to do it alone, so often he does it in a group. This kind of thing, basically, he's trying to attract the girl's attention, and he's not doing the right way. If you want to make, one boy wants to make friends with another new boy who's come into the classroom, what do? You go up to him, you talk to him. If he's one of the quiet fellows, shy fellows, he doesn't want to talk to you, fine, just say one polite word and move off. But you don't insult a person because you want to make friends with them. One of the common reasons for eve teasing is that the boys don't know how to approach girls. Another is that the boys think that they can be bullies, they can rag girls. This is basically a form of cowardice. And it is also a very bad thing to do. And today, as you know, it is illegal. If you try to do this too often, the girl gives a complaint, you can go to jail. Another very shameful thing that boys do is touching a girl without her consent. And why do they do that? Because of course, the desire is there, the physical intimacy. So what do? In a crowded bus, or maybe in a dark cinema theater, you touch a girl without her consent. It's a very shameful, cowardly thing to do. There are other ways of meeting with girls. And then the boy tries to say, oh, I did something like this, as though he's boasting as though he's done something great. And some boys even take it also say, actually, boys like girls also like physical intimacy. They are pretending that they don't enjoy. That's not right. Girls do like physical intimacy, just like boys do, but it should always be a consensual act. You want it, I want it, let's do it together. It should be voluntary. I'm not going to enjoy anything if it is forced upon me. Molesting girls is a sign of cowardice. See, even the dog is embarrassed and ashamed when he sees such things. Then, physical intimacy. As you go into the older classes, boys and girls, it is natural that you will want to talk to each other. You will want to be with each other, chat, be a little extra friendly. Boyfriends, girlfriends, best friends. It's nice. It's all part of life. It's all part of the show. But what is the right relationship? Are you, and the tendency for physical intimacy will naturally come forward once you become good friends. But then what happens? Then at that point, you have to decide, are you a boyfriend or are you a bully? You can ask for a little physical intimacy. You can try for it. But if the girl is not willing, if the girl is not interested, what do? Do you pressurize her? Do you push yourself onto her? Do you think that, oh, I am privileged, I am a male, I am aggressive, I can do what I want? Is that the right attitude? That's not friendship. You are not going to be a bully. You have to be a friend. If she is interested and willing, if it's both sides are interested, yes, maybe a little bit of physical intimacy can occur. But pressure and bullying is not true friendship. Many friendships at this age last very briefly. And if in between you're going to have physical intimacy without true friendship, it's very dangerous for the emotional maturity of the boy and the girl. Now, when I take classes for boys, frequently the boys come and ask me, how can I impress the girls? What should I do to impress the girls? And this concept of aggression is so popular that some boys sincerely believe that they've seen too many movies. That's a basic problem. They've seen too many movies. They think, oh, if I have big muscles, Salman Khan, if I have big muscles, or if I, run after the girls, if I behave rough and rude with them, if I act tough with them, they will be impressed. Now, that's not the way you impress girls. Okay, suppose you want to be friendly with a boy, and if you show off your muscles to him, and if you talk rough with him, will that boy like it? Of course not. You don't impress just because you got some bigger muscles. You're not going to impress girls by showing them your muscles and by talking rough and rude. That's only the movies. In real life, whether you're the person you're trying to befriend is a boy or a girl, the only way to impress the other person is to be very decent, friendly. You have to be decent. That is what, when you ask the girls what the number one what they want from boys, is that they want the boys to treat them decently, to treat them with respect. Don't use negative language. Don't make fun of me or of other girls. Don't pass negative comments about us. Don't molest us. Treat us with respect. Then we can treat you with respect. They want, first and foremost, boys who are decent, boys who show up that they've got plenty of girlfriends. Nobody likes that type of boys. Okay, so decency is the one thing that all girls hope for in their boyfriend. Secondly, of course, intelligence. We all like students who do well in their studies. We know, we like smart people. We all are like smart. And we know that in the future, it is smart fellows and the studious fellows who are going to earn big salaries and do very well in life. So, of course, in the classroom, we can't all be first in the class. So if I'm 25th in the class, what will I do? I will make fun of the guy who's there first. He's a nerd. He's a boring fellow. He only knows how to study. He does not know how to enjoy life. We make fun of them. We discourage them. But inside, we are feeling envious. Okay, whether we are boys or girls, we always are impressed with intelligent and hardworking people. And thirdly, girls are very keen on friendly boys. Boys love to talk to girls, and girls equally love to talk to boys. So if you are a very friendly person, it's so easy for them. They are your classmates. They can talk to you freely. You talk to them freely. You all have good friends. They are happy. They want to talk to boys. And if you're a friendly boy, they are happy. But if you're one of these romantic fellows, always I love you and running after girls, then it's a nuisance. I mean, everybody likes to have girlfriends, boyfriends once in a while, but beyond a limit, this girlfriend, boyfriend can be a nuisance. They want friendly chaps truly friendly chaps, because they need friends. They need boys to be friendly with, just like boys need girls whom they can talk to. And of course, girls always like cheerful boys. Now, third and final message I would say is that girls are not inferior to boys. This we should clearly understand. They don't have that much of muscles, agreed, but that is just one thing. They are not inferior to boys. They are not superior. They are just different. And that's how it should be. Just imagine what the world would be like if all of us were males. Such a boring, meaningless world it would be. Girls are different. Girls should be different. It's that difference which makes life meaningful. It's that difference that makes our life enjoyable. So let's come to gender discrimination. What is gender discrimination? It is when we have prejudices, when we expect girls and boys to behave differently, to think, talk, and act differently in the same situation. In the past, there used to be 100, 200 years ago, life was so different that there used to be a lot of classification. Boys should do these things, girls should do those things. But life has changed a lot. I'll give you some common examples. Looking after babies and children is the mother's job. That's a common prejudice. Okay, right? It is the mother's job. But why cannot it be the father's job also? So, okay, in the past, when women had 5 children, 10 children on a routine basis, when people wanted to have as many children as possible, so the mother is always giving birth to babies, and then she's breastfeeding babies, and only the women can give birth. Only women can breastfeed the babies. So that much they are always occupied with such basic activities. And along with that, they also keep the babies clean. And so they are busy looking after babies. Today, when we have 1 or 2 children, is it necessary that the woman should spend her entire life looking after babies? Of course, it is her duty to look after the baby, but why not also the male? The woman might have to breastfeed the baby, but why can't the man, why can't the father do a help out in other ways? If the baby needs to be carried around, which is a common thing, why can't the father carry the baby around? Doesn't he have more muscles, stronger muscles than the female? So it's not that the mothers shouldn't do this, but men and women should share in the work of looking after babies. That is what true, real men do. That is the present generation is much more mature than our generation, because we are still 50 years ahead of you, older than you. So we still have some old prejudices, but the world is changing for better now. Disciplining naughty children is the father's job. This used to be very true in the past. Okay, we were taught in the past that women should love their babies. Of course, they will love their babies. They are breastfeeding their baby. They are cleaning their baby. They are looking after the baby. But the men, they are not supposed to look after their baby. They are supposed to walk around with a tough expression, holding a cane in their hand. And if any of the children behave naughty, punish them. Men should not be too friendly with their children. Men should keep a distance from their children so that they can punish them and frighten them and punish them whenever they do wrong. That is not a very good idea. Why cannot disciplining be done by a mother? Disciplining means initially, if somebody does wrong, you tell him, you explain, oh, this is not the right thing to do. If that's not satisfactory, you scold him. If even that is not adequate, maybe, rarely you have to punish him. That can be done by both mother and father. You don't need muscle power to discipline a small child. Okay, and who should be disciplining? Whoever is there at the moment. And if it's a mother, then she should be disciplining. Not saying, oh, your father, that bogeyman known as your father, will come come home at night and punish you. That's stupid. Okay, and who should be, what is the real punishment that a child gets? My mother has no affection for me. I did something wrong, and suddenly her affection disappeared, and she became very upset and angry with me. That is the real punishment. Not that my mother beat me or scolded me. My mother withdrew her affection for a little while. That hurts. And the boy realized, oh, I did something wrong. I should not hurt my mother. And because he loves his mother, because she's withdrawing her affection for a little while, he realizes and he decides, I will not do it again. That is how you teach children. Those who love their children and spend the maximum time with their children, they are the best to discipline. Because just a momentary withdrawal of affection will make the boy feel very sad, and he will decide to be a good boy henceforth. So disciplining is both father's and mother's job. And fathers will be better disciplinarians if they throw away that stick and love the children. And when the child is wrong, instead of using a stick, he just tells the child, I am unhappy with what you did. That is frequently much more effective as a disciplining method. Earning mother is a man's responsibility. Right? When there were, in the past, when there were very few jobs and people had to struggle, farming and hunting and all that, 200 years ago, that was true. The men had to go around doing that because women are so busy looking after babies. But today men are working, women are working. It's much better. Life is much easier when both the man and the woman work. I'm telling you from experience, 2 salaries are much better than 1. So then what is this business of earning money is the man's responsibility? That is a little outdated. Cooking and housework are for women. Right? But cooking and housework are for women. Women staying in the house full time, they can do that. But otherwise, if both the men and women are going out and working, your father and your mother are both working, can't your father and your mother, when they come back home, share in the housework? Isn't that the situation nowadays, what people are doing nowadays more and more? The wife should give her salary to her husband. That is a common, belief in the rural areas. You know why? Because it is the man in the past who used to earn the money and who used to control the family situation. Now, what happens if the husband is not getting a salary? If he's one good for nothing, he's just an alcoholic and he's not doing any work, or he's just earning a minimum salary because he's spending all of it on alcohol. There's only one way he can prove to the world that he's a masculine, that he's a male, that he's in charge. He demands the wife's salary. The wife does all the work. She earns the money, but he takes it to spend it to show off that he is a male. That's pseudo male. He's a useless fellow. He has to depend on his wife to prove to the world that he's a male. Boys should not play with dolls. Why not? Actually, if you give toys to boys and girls, they will in the beginning play with all toys indiscriminately. After some time, you will find the girl notices the mother is always giving me a bath more often. Mother is feeding me more often. Mother is the one who breastfed me. So naturally, she thinks that looking after the children is her work, and so girls will they are imitating their parents, right? So she begins to bathe the baby, feed the baby, play with the baby. Boys initially will do that, but afterwards, if they see their parents are rather it's more males driving cars, so they want to play with cars. This is how it starts. But there is also some natural tendency for girls. Women have that instinctive. It's due to the estrogen and progesterone in their blood. They have that instinctive tendency to be loving towards children. So they are more likely to play with dolls. But other toys, both boys and girls practically play equally. It's okay to give the children all toys and let them decide what toys to play with. It's perfectly all right if the boy wants to play with a doll. He's not going to do that forever. Only men should drive cars. Why? What's wrong with women driving cars? Okay, again, it's cars here are a symbol of authority. And so only men should drive cars. We want to show that we are men. Okay, now 20 years ago, okay, I was staying in my house just behind the hospital. So I don't need a car. I just walk up to my hospital and come back 5 minutes. My wife has to travel, take 2 buses to reach her college. She's a college professor. So naturally, we got a car and she goes by car. She needs it because if she goes by car, she takes just 1/3 of the time to reach there. So she's driving the car. 20 years ago, Kerala, a very conservative state, Kerala, and that too in a rural area. My wife drives a car and everybody looks like this. So woman driving a car, they're all stunned. They all look like that each time. And they see her every day and still they are quite impressed. Today, all that is old stuff. I'm talking about 20 years ago, 50 years ago. Today, in my hospital, almost all the staff nurses are coming on 2-wheelers. And nowadays, it's quite common on the roads to see women driving cars. I suppose it's the same in Bombay. Important decisions should be made by men. Why can't women also make important decisions? Actually, the most important decisions in the world are made by women. It's women who decide how to look after the baby. And let me tell you, if you sit and think about it, if you sit and think about all decision about how to feed you, how to dress you, how to bring you up, those decisions, the husband thinks it's unimportant in the past, and he used to leave it all to the wife. And it was his wife who was making the most important decisions in the world. Today is much better. The husband and the wife are working together. And I'm telling you, we think differently. Males and females, we are not exactly the same. We have slightly different viewpoint. 2 different people will always have different viewpoints. And a male and a female viewpoint will be slightly different. And so when the child gets the benefit of 2 brains instead of 1, and he gets much better care. Important decisions should always be made by both people, father and mother, sitting together. Here is another funny superstition that real men, they can't cry in public. Men don't cry in public. It's a shame. Men crying is a sign of weakness. You know what's the danger of that? You go to a hospital. Okay, now somebody in the family has a massive stroke. You rush them to the hospital and you go to the hospital and the doctor says it's very bad. Situation is very bad. We'll try our best. Take him to the ICU and you try your best. And after a few hours, the doctors come out and they say, very sorry, we did our best, but we didn't succeed. Immediately, the men and the women all, what can they do? They say, thank you, doctor, and this is there, and they all cry. And after some time, after a good cry, they begin to regain a little bit of self-control, and then they take they take their relative home. That's how it happens, and that's how it should happen. But there are some men who believe that they should be aggressive, they should be rough and tough, they should be rude. They're crying. That's a shameful thing for men to do. So they don't cry. And what happens if you don't cry? You are under emotional stress, and you don't cry. What can you do? Men can be violent. So when you should cry, the only emotion that some men permit themselves is violence, anger. So these men became angry in the hospital. They shout at the doctors, they hit the doctors, they destroy hospital property. You see this in the papers every day. Why? Because they don't know how to show proper emotions. They don't know when to cry, and they don't know when to be violent. Let me tell you, real men do cry in public. If you need to cry, you should cry. And let me again emphasize that real men play with their children. Playing with your children is a very happy experience. It helps you to grow up emotionally mature. Even during adulthood, you learn a lot from your children. You grow and you become happier when you have children and you look after them, your children, your grandchildren. Men play with their children slightly different from women, because men can run faster, so they are much more likely to play running games, outdoor games with their children. They are much more, of course women also play this, but because men are physically stronger, they are likely to play physical games, football, all these type of games with their children. They are find it easier to teach their children various games, sports, shuttle, cycling, okay, because they are muscular and they can run around better. So men and women play differently with their children, and the child benefits from having a father and a mother to play with me. Both of them play in slightly different way. Both are very enjoyable experiences. Real men play with their children. That's very common today. 50 years ago, it was very rare, because men infra-dig below their dignity to play. They did not know how much they lost by not playing with their children. We mentioned that the man should drive the car. And I mentioned to you that about my wife driving the car. Now, what's wrong with a woman driving a car? After all, isn't this common nowadays? More and more women pilots are flying planes all over the world today. Then the percentage of women flying pilots is increasing year by year in the last 10 years. So if they can fly a plane, what's so great about driving a car? And there used to be this concept that women will make good teachers and nurses because they like children. Men will make good engineers and doctors. Don't you think the situation has changed now? Yes, women make good teachers and nurses, definitely. But there are, at least in Kerala, there are plenty of good teachers, both in schools, both in schools and in colleges, plenty of good teachers. It's not like in the past that women took up teaching jobs. Today, men and women both are very fond of teaching. And nurses also. Every hospital now has male nurses, because there are some jobs which require male nurses, specifically, especially where physical energy and strength is required. There are certain specific parts of hospital work where male nurses have an advantage. Men make good engineers and doctors. I don't know how the situation is in Bombay. I couldn't check. I tried. But in Kerala, what's happening now? In the last 10 years, women are entering into the medical profession in much larger numbers than men. Why? Because there's a NEET exam that they have to pass, and the women are more likely to be studious and sit and study and attempt the exam. The men will apply in large numbers, but a lot of them will not study. They are too busy enjoying life at the moment, so they don't study that hard, or they have that, it's so difficult. I'm not going to try properly. I'll make an attempt, but not too seriously. So they're so busy playing, so busy that they don't have time to study. So women are entering into the medical profession in much larger numbers than men today, at least in Kerala. And engineers, I am feeling so jealous, man. You see, just last month, February 28th, imagine the audacity. My niece, she's 22 years old, just 22. And she passed her civil engineering just 1 month ago. And on Feb 28th, 1 or 2 months ago, and on Feb 28th, she walks into a job on Accenture, civil engineering specific project of Accenture. Accenture actually has a lot of other computer digital work. There's some civil engineering aspect of some computer. She walks into Accenture and she's getting 5 or 6 lakhs salary as a starting salary at the age of 22. At that age, I was earning a pathetic amount. In fact, I was still studying at that age. These girls are, in all the engineering colleges of Kerala, the girls are outshining the boys. I'm not talking about the best colleges, the IITs and the NITs, the boys and girls are all doing very well. In fact, I think the boys are slightly advantageous. But those who get into the NITs and IITs are all top students. So they all study hard. They study hard right from beginning to end. But you look at the slightly second-run colleges, so many of them are there, and the persons who get in there may not be that hardworking. And the girls, they take life a little more seriously. They sit and study regularly. They enjoy life. They play, they do everything, but they also study for a few hours every day. And they write the exams and they pass. And maybe they're not that brilliant, but they pass all the exams in the first attempt. And the girls and the boys, oh, they might be brilliant, but they don't have time. You see, now I'm free from my family. I'm living in a hostel. My parents can't control me. So I am going to enjoy. And they are so busy enjoying. Of course, you should enjoy. What is life otherwise? But they're so busy enjoying that they forget to study for 2 or 3 hours a day. And what happens? They fail in an exam. Some of them don't even attend the exam. And at the end, there are lots of boys. The girls, a lot of them will pass out in the first attempt and a few will actually fail. Boys, a lot of them have not even tried the exams. And a large number of them, if a 4-year course, they take 5 years, 6 years. So the girls are now doing better than the boys in most of the colleges in Kerala. And I presume this is the truth all over India. So, gender discrimination. There was a study, I don't know whether you people read it last week. The Hindu, most of the newspapers reported it. The Times of India, they reported this study which was done in India today, and they found that attitudes have changed a lot. Each generation, the attitudes between men and women are changing. One of the things that I found very amusing was the attitude that men and women are equally good as political leaders. They all said that, men and women said that men and women are equally good as political leaders. Now, why has that attitude changed? Because they know there was once upon a time in India, there was a Indira Gandhi, then there was a Sonia Gandhi, then there was a Trinamool, Mamata Banerjee. South India, there used to be a, what's her name? Jayalalitha. So there are lots of women, and there used to be somebody called Mayavadi. So there are lots of women dominating in the field of politics. So they say, men and women are equally good as political leaders. The negative attitude has changed. And then the next comment, a wife should always obey her husband. Why is that? At the high level of politics, okay, let the men and women all be leaders. But in my family, where I am directly involved, it's better if the wife should obey the husband. Okay, I don't want too much of change to occur too fast. I agree with them. My wife should always obey her husband. My wife should always obey me. But I should also obey my wife. Husbands and wives should always listen to each other, discuss with each other, agree with each other. And when they can't agree on some topic, they should compromise after discussion. Husbands and wives should always obey each other. This business of wife should always obey the husband is not fully correct. And another big change, I'm just pointing out a few important changes. Now they are saying that both the husband and the wife should earn money for the family. That is a big change from the past. And that's a very good change, because when two people are earning instead of one, life becomes much easier. Now, the attitude is that both the father and the mother should take care of the child. So the men are taking up their role as caretakers, as fathers. Formerly, there were only mothers. Now there are fathers. There are people who don't just produce children. There are men who are willing to look after their children. And that is a very important change. So your generation is lucky, much luckier than us. So much of change has already occurred in adults, and you are the next generation. You will be even better, even more mature than our generation. In just 100 years, a lot of change is occurring, and gender attitudes are changing, and gender equality is gradually being effected. Gradually, but the changes are being seen. And one of the reasons for this is you are also lucky. You are studying in co-ed schools. In our time, 50 years ago, it was so boring. Boys study in boys' schools, girls study in girls' schools, and we don't know anything about each other. So the boys think that the girls are some strange creatures from outer space, and the girls think the same about men. And so we don't know. When we talk to each other, we just see all the differences between you and me. We think differently, we talk differently, we play differently. We see all the differences, but we don't see the similarities. We just don't know. Whereas if you are both studying co-ed schools, boys and girls together, right from the first standard onwards, you can see that the similarities are so great, and there are differences, but they are very small. Like I mentioned, you make out the difference by the hairstyle and the type of clothes that you wear. Those are the most important changes. There are other differences also, but those are the most important, most easily visible differences. The similarities far outweigh the differences, and because of that, your generation nowadays, boys' schools, girls' schools have dramatically come down in number, and therefore boys and girls today are lucky. They are much more mature than in the past. Because women in the past used to live at house, women used to do all the work at home, and they used to actually train their daughters also to do work in the house, and that is good. But unfortunately, this attitude was the girls are supposed to be neat and clean and tidy, boys not necessary. That is unfair on boys. We also need to learn to appreciate work. Work is important. Study is important. Play is important. Yes, no doubt about it. Without play, what is the purpose of life? But study, a little bit of study is necessary if you want to enjoy. Ice cream is good, but can you have ice cream morning, afternoon, evening, night? It's boring. You have to have a variety of foods, and then you have a dessert. It's tasty, right? So you have to play. But if you have play all the time, it's boring. You have to study a little bit. You have to do a little work. If you don't do too much of work or too much of study, if there is a reasonable limit to the amount of study and play and work, if there's a balance, that is when we achieve true happiness. So boys, at least we should arrange our bed after waking up. We should arrange our study table. We should arrange our school bag. We should arrange our room and keep it clean. And if we are not too busy, we can help out in many other ways also. But at least let's start by looking after ourselves. We are in no way inferior to women that we should be so helpless that we need someone to help us arrange our own room. Okay. And even, okay, I can't do cooking, fine, but I can wash the plates. These things we should help teach ourselves to do a little bit of work and to do a little bit of study, to balance our lives by sharing in everything. Study, work, play, all should be there. Only then our lives will be full and meaningful. The times are changing. Mamata Banerjee is doing very well, and women are doing very well in the medical field today, unlike in the past. In Kerala, women are taking over, are doing every job that all the jobs that were thought that only men can do, even coconut climbing and driving autos, all this is being done by men. Women also, of course, it's still dominated by men, but women also are joining these fields. Okay, so let me end by showing you the pictures of some world champions. These are Koneru Hampi in chess, Sania Mirza in tennis, PV Sindhu is still shining in badminton. Koneru Hampi is still world number 3. She in between she went off to have a baby and she went away for a few years, but she's still come back and she's number 3. Okay, she won a rapid tournament recently. Joshna Chinnappa in squash and Lovelina Borghan, bronze medal in the recent Olympics. Mirabai Chano, silver. And just 2 days ago, Smriti Mandana, 123 runs in 119 balls. Your Mumbai star. We have some great women. Yes, boys and girls are equally smart. Boys and girls have equal opportunity to live in this world happy. Our best friends, of course, we can be friends with people who are very poor, very rich, very illiterate, very highly educated, but it's generally easier to lead a happy life with persons who are reasonably comfortable to us. We are educated, we like to our best companions are generally people who are as educated as us. Our best friend is our equal. My best friend, my wife is my best friend. My wife is my equal. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you, sir.
Definitely. Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you, sir, for such a wonderful talk. Now I request Chitra ma'am to proceed.
Yeah, sir, there are a few questions, and especially about the adolescent boys. That what is emotional nurturing for a boy?
The emotional nurturing. Well, that is how I had mentioned to you earlier that, see, emotional nurturing basically is just that you have to enjoy yourself emotionally. You have to, how do you say it? Yeah, we are social beings. Okay, we are social beings. We have our happiness comes from our relationships with other people. So we have to encourage positive emotions, encourage positive relationships, not only with boys. That's okay in a younger age group, but as adolescents, we need to develop good, happy relationships. No, initially it was all with our parents, with our brothers and sisters, with boys whom we were in school. But after adolescence, another very important group comes in, and that is the girls who are your friends. The girls are very important because it is necessary that you learn how to interact with them. That is emotional and social nurturing. We need to learn to behave friendly to them, to have good relationships with them. Then we will grow emotionally. We will become emotionally mature. That is basically, we learn to treat others with respect, then we will begin to treat ourselves with respect. We learn to be happy.
Yeah, very nice. The another query was like we are going through COVID times, and past COVID infection in the family or some bereavement, there is a lot of traumatizing experience in most of the adolescents' mind, and they are confused. Few of them, they have gone in shell and they cannot express also. My question is how long it will last and how to tell the coping skills to both boys and girls.
Hopefully, we don't know. The simple truth is that we do not know whether and when there will be a fourth spell. It's quite possible. The COVID virus is keeping on evolving, and more evolution changes will occur. New variants will appear, and so a very dramatic variant, if it ever occurs, it can cause one more pandemic. But remember, the first pandemic, it was a very slow spreading, but it killed a lot of people because nobody was immune. The second pandemic, people took vaccines. And in those countries where people took vaccines, those who were vaccinated had protection and the mortality was very low. And now when the third pandemic came in, when Omicron came in, by that time, everybody in some countries, like everybody had already received the vaccine. All the older people had received the vaccine, and many of us had already got mild infections. So we have developed a certain degree of protection. Now, the fourth virus that comes in, the next variant that comes in, you will get quite possible that the next one more variant will come in, which is so totally different that it will again start attacking all of us. Even the old variants can attack us, but they will not do much harm because we have a certain degree of immunity. The next variant that comes, even if it is severe, it might spread like wildfire, but the mortality will be low because all of us have immunity and vaccine immunity plus immunity by infection. That is why Omicron mortality was low. Actually, when they did initially they thought Omicron is mild, but after they did detailed study, after millions were affected, they found that Omicron was 25% milder than Delta, only 25% milder, but the mortality was negligible in those who are vaccinated. So it was the vaccination that was going to protect us. It was the old infections that was protecting us. Now, and mortality is very low with Omicron. Now, when the next virus comes in, what is going to happen? Again, we will get infected. But when we get infected, because we are vaccinated and because we have got infections earlier, the infection is expected to be, we cannot guarantee anything, but it's expected to be much milder. The infection will be there. We will all get coughs, colds, fevers, etc. Some of us will go to hospital, but chance of dying is going to be very small. The best example was in the USA. Some people even today absolutely refuse to take vaccine. So those who took 2 doses of vaccine, mortality was only 10% of the others. Those who took a booster, mortality was just 1% of those who didn't take vaccines. So vaccination vaccination has been proved to be effective in those who are above 65. Now, so far as teenagers, adolescents are concerned, the safest age to get COVID-19 is between the age of 5 years and 19 years. It's easier to die from a bullet wound or from a road traffic accident than from COVID. The mortality for every person, for every 1,000 persons over the age of 65 who die, only one child in the 5 to 19 age group will die. Suppose you take 1 million persons above 65 who get the infection and 1 million children between 5 and 19 who get the infection. You compare the mortality for every 1,000 who die in the over 65 age group, only one will die in the 5 to 19 age group. In fact, very few will even go to hospital. Most of them will not even know that they got the infection. Their father and mother got the infection and were tested positive, and you had a mild cough or cold for 2 days. That's it. So don't worry about COVID. In this age group, you are super strong. That's why we are not even bothering about it. So far, we are not even bothered about vaccination because it's so mild in this age group. So there is no need to worry about COVID in our age group. Now, of course, there were lots of restrictions in the past. They were necessary. They were important. In the next year, even if a new pandemic comes out, the chance of having a lot of restrictions is going to be very small. There might be small restrictions here and there, but major restrictions are not going to be there. People will be able to work. You will be able to go to school.
Yeah.
Many of you, one point, madam, many of you, some of you, a small percentage of you will have had a shock. Am I going to die? Or is my father going to die? Is my grandmother going to die? And you will have got upset. And you will be inside, you are so upset. My God, I'm scared. And you don't know what to do. I'm either anxiety or depressed, scared or very unhappy. If you have such feelings, don't hide them. Tell your parents that you are feeling this. Open up and tell them openly. And ask to see a pediatrician, not for anything else, but just to express your feelings, and your pediatrician will be able to give you more professional advice and get maybe even a tablet if required for 1 month to get rid of your excessive anxiety and your excessive depression. Okay?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, sir. And the most important for adolescents is that how to handle the peer pressure when other friends are asking to come forward to have addictions like smoking or alcohol or gutka. Please guide.
Yes, that is actually a very important issue, but I thought I couldn't put it in these slides. I actually removed it from these slides. See, it is natural. Earlier, when you were small children, whatever your father or mother says is law. Your children say something, your friends say something, okay, that's a second thing. Your father and mother are law. Okay, now when you go into adolescence, you all want to be free from your father and mother. You want to be independent, but you don't have the courage to be independent. So what do? You are moving away from your father and mother, but you can't stand alone. So your friends all get together and become a team and support each other. The problem is if you have a good team, if you have all of your some are good students, hardworking students, you enjoy life, you play a lot of games, but you also study, then life becomes pleasant. Unfortunately, if some of your friends are more into smoking and alcohol and drugs, then you also will be confused and you also will go into that. Peer pressure is a big problem. How do you handle it? The answer is very simple. Why did you move away from your father and mother? Not because you don't love them, but because you want a little more freedom. You love them, you care for them, you care for their opinion, but you want a little more freedom. You want to try to think for yourself. That is why you're not clinging to them. You're trying to make your own decisions. You want to be independent, because the difference between an adult and a child is that the adult is independent, whereas the child is dependent. And you are in the process of becoming independent. Now, when you are in the process of becoming independent, why do you want to become dependent on cigarettes? Why do you want to become a slave of cigarettes? Do you really want that? Do you really want to become an addict to alcohol? Do you really want to become a slave of drugs? And just to be a slave of drugs is to totally lose your independence. Do you really want to lose your independence? Do you want to be dominated not by your father, but by some gunda in your class who thinks that he's the tough fellow, he's the popular fellow, so whatever he says, all his friends should agree? Do you want to be dominated by your friends? Yes, it is important that you should care for your friends and you should share opinions with them, but don't lose your independence. So how will you not lose your independence? Okay, your friends are going for a smoke. Okay, and they will ask you to come on, let's go ahead. Because why? They think that smoking is an adult activity, so it's a sign of maturity. It's not a sign of maturity. You can imitate a lot of good qualities from adults. You don't have to imitate smoking. Okay, so all of them are saying, let's smoke. And when you are sharing a smoke, they'll give you the cigarette and you say, no, I'm not interested. So what should you do? You have a right to say no. They are your friends, but you still have a right to say no. You have to maintain your independence without losing your friendships. How do you do that? First, they force you to. It's natural. You will all force each other. Sometimes in nice things and sometimes in stupid things also. So they are acting stupid. They are forcing you to smoke a cigarette. You just say, no, I'm not interested. And if that doesn't work and they still pressurize you, say it again, but this time serious face, body a little stiff. I don't want to smoke. And if they're still pressurizing you, you can slightly try to deviate the subject. Let's go for a walk. Let's go for a cup of chai. Sometimes it's possible to just deviate attention and finish up the matter. Or if that doesn't work, if they still pressurize you, you can tell them your feelings. See, I don't like smoking because I don't like the smell of smoking. I don't like the taste of the smoke. And I think it is not a mature activity. So I am not going to smoke. You're not going to tell them, don't smoke. You're not going to fight with them. That's not your business. You are telling them friendly, I don't like it. So I am not going to smoke. Why are you pressurizing me to smoke? Tell them your feelings. I have a right to be independent. I am not discouraging you from smoking, but I don't feel like smoking. And if they say, oh, you are spoiling the mood, we are all smoking, just say, I'm not spoiling your mood. I am not discouraging you, but I want to be independent. I don't want to smoke. You know what will happen? They'll all say, oh, he's a mama's pet. He won't smoke. He thinks he can't smoke. He thinks if he smokes, he'll cough himself to death, and they'll start making fun of you. You're a mama's boy. You're a child. You're a small little child. They have a right to make fun of you. Okay, they have a right to make fun of you because you're not cooperating with the gang. So they have a right to little bit. They'll tickle you and all that. You have to have the maturity to grin and bear it. Sometimes they will make fun of you. You have no choice. But it's better that they make fun of you and the problem is solved there. But you have not hurt their feelings and still you have maintained your independence. Now, sometimes in spite of this, they will still compel you. Such persons, you must ask yourself, if a person is compelling you beyond limits, is he a good friend? Are they actually your friends? Otherwise, why will they pressure? The pressurizing is normal. Too much of pressure is not good. What you can do, you don't get angry, just smile and walk away from them. Okay? And they'll make fun of you. Walk away from that. Don't say anything. And tomorrow, they are your friends, man. They are your friends. Tomorrow, when they see you, they'll realize, okay, we probably put a little too much pressure and they'll deliberately refuse to talk about it. You will say something funny and finish it up. Maximum, they'll make fun of you once more. So you have maintained your independence without spoiling your friendship. That is the right attitude. And if they pressurize you again, or if they, insult you, say that you want to get you out of the group, then such persons are not your friends. They are trying to enslave you they are bringing all their negatives into you. Such friends are better to be avoided. And there are rare situations when, especially where drugs are concerned, you should think seriously about informing your parents, because when it's something as serious as drugs, you have to protect yourself, including getting the help of your parents. Don't stick to bad friends beyond the limit. Little bit of pressurizing is normal. And remember the final thing. You have every right to say no, but don't get angry. Don't try to argue. You can't win. Okay, you can't win with 5 people. You can't win. So don't try to argue. That will spoil friendships. Don't try to, don't use physical violence. Don't use violent language. That means if you use violent language, the next day when they see you, they'll still feel bad. So don't use violent language. Don't use physical violence. Say no.
Very good explanation, sir. And the third, one of our panelists, Dr. Amok Shahane, she has said that the parents should be role model. And the children, instead of saying something, if they observe that the parents are not having all these addictions, they will definitely follow their advice. And father will be a good friend in adolescent age who can discuss with children about these problems. With this note, may I ask Dr. Kalyani to go for another session, which is for girls.
Thank you, ma'am, and thank you, sir. That question answer session was really good because that covered many points and many problems our dear adolescent are facing while handling the peer pressure. Now we move on to our another next session, which is for girls. I request sir to go ahead with the session.
Yeah.
Just give me a moment to put on the
Yeah,
news.
sure. In
Yes,
between,
sir.
I want to add a note that nature is the best teacher. And we Homo sapiens or mammals are nature's fond children. He created us and kept it in an auto mode now onwards. Once he created, he kept everything on auto mode. Today's lecture with Dr. Newton is like solving a jigsaw puzzle, and the kids, adolescents are going to be benefited immensely with this. Please, Dr. Newton, share your thoughts about girls.
Madam, can you see my slides?
Not yet.
Not yet. You can see the slides?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Then I must have made a mistake. 1 second. Oh, wait. How come? There's something wrong here. Wait. I seem to, wait, okay, sorry. I have not shared the slides correctly. No, it's not come. 1 second. That's it.
Yes.
The slides are clear, madam?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So good evening, girls. Very happy once more to get a chance to talk to you all of you about how girls should learn to respect themselves. How are you a smart girl? Are you a popular girl? Do you respect yourself? I'm Dr. Newton. I come from Kerala. Very happy to get a chance to come all the way to Navi Mumbai to talk with all of you. Yeah, the topic today was transition. The transition. Okay, and what is the transition? There's a massive transition going on in all of you. You are changing. You have once upon a time you were children below the age of 10 years. Now you are after 20 by 20 years you are adults, and now you are in the transition phase. You are an adolescents, 10 to 19 years. This is a phase where children grow, change, transition into adulthood. It's a massive period of massive change. First of all, there's physical change, not only menstruation, which is one of the most important changes, most dramatic changes. There's also the simple physical change of just growing taller, so that many of you are as tall as your parents, as your mother, and some are taller. Then the second big thing is that intelligence has increased dramatically. You are intellectually much more you think a lot nowadays. You can understand a lot nowadays, especially at the age of 15 to 18 compared to what you used to know at the age of 10. And you're so impressed with your own intelligence, and that's good. But the beautiful news is that by the age of 25 years, your brain will attain full maturity, and then you will be twice as intelligent as you are today. Okay, the the physical transition has more or less occurred already. Growth in height and menstruation. The intellectual transition, improving intelligence, is halfway there already. Wait till you're 25. And third comes the other and most important transition, the emotional transition, the transition from the thinking and the feelings of children to the feelings and the emotional maturity of adults. That is what you are beginning to go through. And it started when you started falling in love with boys, but there's much more to the emotional transition than just falling in love. Okay, now, now just look at this picture. You can see on the left, you can see two children. Are they male or female? You look at them, you can't really make out. If they've got short hair, they're probably males. If they're wearing pant and shirt, they're probably males. Otherwise, if they've got long hair and they're wearing frocks, they are probably females. But the features look the same. They look, unless you examine the underwear, you can't make out. Children look very exact, and you have to create differences like a different hairstyle and a different clothing style to differentiate between male and female. Adults, the change has occurred already. The men have broad shoulders and they have mustache and beard, and the women have big breasts and they have broad hips. So the physical change is very obvious. But how much of difference is there really? The difference, when you see, it's only the physical, only the reproductive system that has changed. The part within the underwear, the female reproductive system, the male reproductive system are totally different. And that is why they have matured and immediately the body has changed size and shape. But the rest of the systems are very similar. The reproductive system is totally different. The immune system is much stronger in females than males. That is why you see that out of the around 6 million people who died in this massive COVID pandemic so far, 4 million were males and only 2 million were females, because women have a stronger immune system. Men have a stronger musculoskeletal system. The muscles and bones are larger and stronger. Most of the other changes are very similar. Under your skin, you have a lot of fat. Men have very little fat, so you can see all the muscles bulging. Women have a lot more fat under the skin, so they don't look, they have big muscles, but they don't look muscular. They have very smooth hands and legs. That's because there's more fat protecting them. But all the other systems, digestive, urinary, heart, lung, brain, all are the same. The average IQ of a male is 100. The average IQ of a female is 100. Okay, so most of the systems are very similar. Only one system is totally different. Unfortunately, in the past, we not only dressed them differently to differentiate between them, but we also brought them up differently. Girls are supposed to be clean and neat and tidy all the time, and they are expected to be obedient and quiet and well behaved. How lucky you people are. You are brought up in a perfect manner by your parents, all the right things you are taught. Wouldn't it be nice if boys also were taught all these things? But unfortunately, the attitude was different towards boys. Boys are not expected to be clean or neat or tidy, which is a very sad, actually, it's a tragedy. It is based on some misconceptions of the past. See, 100, 200 years ago, what is the point in men boys being neat and tidy? 100, 200 years ago, all the time there was war in every country in India, in the world. You take your own India, in every country in the world 200 years ago, men are always going to war, fighting against each other. So men should be strong and men should be aggressive. That is the important thing. Men should be aggressive, fight. So because men are forced to be very aggressive in a world which is full of war, they said, okay, let the boys itself, from childhood itself, let the boys be aggressive. Boys should be, why do men have time to be clean and neat and tidy? It's not necessary. They don't have the time for it. They're always fighting. Therefore, they need not be clean and tidy, and the children also need not be clean and tidy, boys. Okay, and the boys should be aggressive, trained to be aggressive from childhood. So let them be mischievous. When girls do mischief, we'll tell them, don't do this. This is not correct. If necessary, we will scold them. If necessary, we will punish them. So they will behave very obedient and they'll grow up to be nice children. Boys, let them be mischievous. They need to be aggressive. Let the boys will be boys. Let them be mischievous. And when they grow up, what happens? They will be good fighters. So we are training our children to be fighters, to be aggressive, to answer back, to be aggressive. This was not a terribly wrong idea 100 years ago, 1000 years ago, 200 years ago. But today, we are all sitting in front of computer screens. We are all studying in schools. We are none of us going to fight. When we go for work, we are not working with our hands, farming 100% of the time, farming or shooting with bow and arrow to kill animals to eat. We are sitting in offices and working. So why can't boys be clean and neat and tidy? Wouldn't that be better? What is the need for so much of aggression? Unfortunately, the traditions that were good in the past are not appropriate for the 20th and definitely not appropriate for the 21st century. You girls are very lucky, you were brought up so nicely. See, boys fighting like this. This is something that you see with boys. You don't see it with the you might see even adults fighting like this on the roadside sometimes, but you don't see women fighting like this. That aggression which we taught and we tolerate in boys. Of course, they fight and they go back home with torn clothes and the parents scold them a little bit, but you don't really take it seriously. Whereas if a girl fought like this, she would get into big trouble. Aggression. So much of aggression in boys. So sad. Isn't it because of that we are seeing what is happening in Ukraine right now? Putin declares war and killing is occurring. War again in the 21st century, a war in Europe, and thousands are dying. Houses are being destroyed. Hospitals are being attacked. Thousands have died, not just soldiers, men, women, children are dying. Even children are dying. Even patients in hospitals are dying because of aggression, because one Putin wants to dominate, because once upon a time there was a Hitler who wanted to dominate. Once before there was a Genghis Khan who wanted to dominate. All the time in the last 200 years, till 100 years ago, there was fights for domination. So much of aggression, and it's always the men who are doing all this. Don't you think that it's time for us to cut down on aggression? And see what are the problems with the aggression. These men, what all problems it creates for them. Do you know, with all the wars that are going on today, despite all the wars that you see, Iraq, Afghanistan, here, there, fights, with all the wars that are going on, the biggest killer of adults in the world today is smoking. You take all the wars together, you take all the road traffic accidents together, you can take all the murders and suicides together, and all of them together kill less people than smoking. And smoking is something that you see men doing because they think it's very mature. It's something that masculine thing to do. So girls don't smoke. It's boys who smoke because they want to imitate men. Unfortunately, the situation is changing. Girls nowadays, in fashionable girls, not other girls, fashionable girls are thinking, oh, if boys smoke, then we also will smoke. We want to show that we are masculine. We are as tough as boys. We can do whatever boys do. There are so many nice things that boys do. Why can't you try to shine by doing the smart things that boys do? Why can't you look at the good things? Are boys only good for smoking? Copy the good things that you see in your parents. Copy the good things that you see in boys. Please don't copy all the mistakes and the stupid things like smoking that boys do. You are girls. You are lucky that you were brought up nicely. Please don't lose that. And alcohol. Boys again drink alcohol. It's very fashionable. Their parents, father drinks alcohol, so son also has to drink alcohol to show that he's an adult like his father. And how much of alcoholism, and you know what happens with alcoholism? Especially in the poor, but even in the rich, the alcoholic, he gets drunk regularly, and when he talks in such a childish manner, because actually the brain, if you look at the brain of a chronic alcoholic, you will see the normal brain versus the alcoholic brain. The alcoholic brain has shrunk. There's so much of black all around the brain. The brain has shrunk. That is why chronic alcoholics talk in such a silly manner. They crack such silly jokes and they laugh and nobody else is laughing. They talk in a very childish manner. They lose their temper for the most trivial reasons. They can't control their themselves. They don't know how to behave. And they have lost all sense of shame. You will find them sleeping on the roadside. This is the effect of alcohol. And isn't it bad enough that boys are victims of alcohol and they learn bad habits in childhood? Why is it that nowadays even girls are trying to take to alcohol, thinking that it is a sign of maturity? Don't go backwards. Take advantage of the good training that you have received in childhood and go forward. Transition from your adolescence into a mature, happy adult. Don't try to transition into a male and transition into a mature woman. Okay? Drugs. Once upon a time, it used to be a privilege of men. Now, again, women are trying to do even that. You have all these rave parties. Every part of the world, you have rave parties, and the men and the women both attend it. And you know what else is happening over there. I have seen girls coming for, I work in an adoption center, and then the poor girl comes and gives up her baby. She comes there for birth secretly, gives up her baby and goes away because she doesn't want anybody to know that she became pregnant at a rave party. Okay, don't lose your maturity by imitating boys in all the bad things that they do. That boys do a lot of nice things also. Imitate that if you want to. Imitate your parents also in the good things that they do. And okay, right. So the first thing that I mentioned, the first point I wanted to make is that aggression is too much in our males in society, and they are suffering from it. And in my talk to the boys, I try to discourage them from being aggressive. I try to tell them that this aggression is a flaw from the past, a backflow from the past, which we are now changing. Such negative, aggressive tendencies are decreasing today, which is a sign of the 21st century. So when the boys are becoming less and less aggressive, why the girls should not become more aggressive? When smoking now, in our generation, it was compulsory to smoke, but my son has not smoked at all. He says it's a stupid thing to do. He doesn't touch smoke. And when boys are increasingly refusing to smoke, refusing to touch cigarettes, refusing to touch alcohol, it is at that time that girls are mistakenly trying to drink alcohol or smoke in order to show their maturity. Let us learn to ignore the negative aggression of the past. The second message is that boys and girls should learn to respect themselves and thereby to respect each other. Yeah, we know about eve teasing, a very bad habit among boys. It's a form of ragging half the time, a type of bullying, especially by boys who don't. Boys want to talk to girls and they don't have the maturity to talk to girls. Maybe they're scared to talk to the girls. Maybe there's a nice, sweet girl there in the class and they are scared if you go and talk to her. She might not be interested in talking back. She might even show her disapproval and it's below their dignity. There's nothing in below dignity. If the boy wants to talk to the girl, he has to talk to the girl. That's the only way he can make friends with the girl. And if you want to talk to a boy, talk to him directly. That's okay. But some boys, partly because they are cowards, they don't want to have the guts to talk to girls alone. So they get together in a group and they make some sweet comment about the girl, half funny, half complimentary. Oh, so beautiful she looks today. It can be taken in both senses, as a compliment or as making fun. Or if they are hoping that you will give a smile, or a quiet smile, an encouraging smile. They are hoping that then they will have the courage to meet you and talk to you. That's one reason for eve teasing. Another thing is that some guys are just born bullies. So the eve teasing is a way in which they can bully girls. So these things are sad, and girls should remember that when eve teasing crosses limits, they have a right to complain, and the guy can even go to jail. Molesting girls in crowded buses, molesting girls in cinema theaters is unfortunately a very sad reality in the world even today. It has decreased from the past, but it is still extremely common, extremely common. It is shameful on the part of boys, okay? But we have to take care. Unfortunately, we girls have to take care. We have to be a little care. But whatever we do, if a guy wants to misbehave, he will misbehave. And what their justification? Some boys say, oh, girls like physical intimacy. We enjoy physical. The girls also enjoy it. And they are just pretending that they don't like it. That's not pretending. No, of course, your physical intimacy might be very interesting, but not when it is forced upon you against your will. Some boys refuse to understand that. They think that they have a right to. They are too cowardly to stand up and act friendly with the girl and to build up a relationship with the girl. They are not willing to take the trouble to make a good relationship with the girl. Okay, that is why this is so common, and I'm very, very ashamed to say it is still very common. Girls, okay, you see in this picture, even the animal, even the dogs are ashamed of these phenomena. boys and girls will want to talk to each other at the age of 15 to 18 as you go into late adolescence. That is important. You have to get to know each other. You have to talk to each other. You will want to be with each other. You will want to spend a lot of time together. Earlier, you had your best friend who was another girl. Now you would like to have a boyfriend. Good. There's nothing wrong with all that. But when you have a boyfriend, unfortunately, once you get to know each other very well, the tendency towards physical intimacy will be there. And if you stimulate the guy in order to attract him, then that stimulation, remember, what starts with a little bit will become a little more and then a little more. And someday, sometime, either he or you can lose control. So be careful. Intimacy, I mean, friendship is good, but intimacy is something that should be between two willing persons. It should be both should want it and both should decide what are the limits. Unfortunately, boys who are aggressive, they feel that they have a right to demand. I know this girl so well. We are good friends. Therefore, I have a right to demand physical intimacy much more than she wants to. In other words, he is beginning to behave not like a boyfriend, not like a friend, but like a bully. So be careful. This is a natural tendency of males, but you must understand it, but don't feel that you have to give in to it. You have to have your limitations. You have to decide the limitations. You can get into big problems. Both of you can get into big problems, but things can happen. Things can go out of control. You have to decide. Is he a boyfriend or is he a bully? If he is going too far, is the friendship worth it? Don't feel that you are desperate, that you have no choice. There are plenty of boys in this world. One boy comes, tomorrow that boy will go. You already probably seen lots of boys and felt very warmly towards them. And after 1 2 months, you lost interest in them. Lots of boys were very interested in you. And then after within a few months, they lose interest in you. This is a fluid age. Boys and girls get to like each other and lose interest equally fast. There's a sudden, strong attraction which we call falling in love. But after some time, that's what starts suddenly in a flash, will end suddenly in a flash. And the boy who was so pathetically in love with you, he suddenly loses interest because he's interested in some other girl. Or the same thing happens to you also. You liked a boy very much, but suddenly you have lost interest. You are interested in somebody else now. These things happen. So remember that them permanent. Don't try to make them permanent by stimulating the boy too much. Be careful whether it is really worth it. Okay, be careful and don't allow your boyfriend to become a bully. Now the question is, supposing a boy, he's your friend, he's your boyfriend, he is okay, he is keen on sexual, physical intimacy. What do you do? There are times when you will have to say no. And how do you say no? First, you say no with a sweet smile and in a soft voice, just say no. I am not interested. Don't argue, just say no. And if he still pushes, which is quite common, they will naturally feel upset. He feels that he has a right to it. So he'll ask you a little more seriously. He's quite passionate. So again, say no. Firmly and seriously say no. This time you're not smiling. You are not angry, but your serious face. You're not going to be angry. With a serious face, just say a firm no. And if he's still trying to pressurize you, try to see whether you can postpone it. I need to think it over. I am not ready for it now. You're not saying no, but okay, let's think it over. We need a little more time. Maybe you can even deviate. Let's go and have a chai. Let's go and do something else. You can deviate and distract him by doing something else. And if he still pressurizes you, which is not uncommon, you can express your emotions. You have a right to say that, okay, I like you and I know that you like me, but I am not ready for this. I am not at the moment willing for it. If we do this, it will be, I will feel bad about it. I am not ready for it. If you do it, you might enjoy it, but I will feel happy. Okay, I am not ready. You have a right to say that, and you should say it because you have a right to be independent. You have a right to limit yourself. And if he's still trying to pressurize you, don't lose your independence. Don't give in like that. You should leave the place. Now, if he's your true friend, and most of the time he is, if he's your true friend, he will be disappointed, definitely, and he might even feel hurt. You don't want to hurt him, but what to do? If he's hurt, he's hurt. And the next time he sees you, he might feel hurt. Maybe you will have to go and speak politely to him. He might be a little hurt, but you might have to make up, not by physical intimacy, but there are other ways of talking sweetly to him. Okay, you must try to maintain your freedom without losing the friendship. Some boys are by nature bullies. Some boys just refuse to understand. I have a right to it. We are so friends. We've been friends for some time. Therefore, we have a right. I have a right to it. If you don't allow me, I don't want you. In that case, if a person says that I pressurize you, in that case, I don't want you, such a person is not your friend. What is the point of going in for physical intimacy? Do you think that this will last? If he is challenging you and threatening that I will leave you, don't give me this, you can be sure that even if you give in, you are going to lose that friendship at some time or the other. He is not meant for you. Better to say no and stick to it. If some boys become intolerable, sometimes you separate from them, and then they stalk you, they follow you, they send you messages, WhatsApp, emails, phone you all the time, nagging you, troubling you continuously. If that happens, if they become uncontrollable, if they become a menace, remember, sometimes it might be necessary to protect yourself by telling your parents about it. They might feel hurt, but they have to, it is their duty to protect you. There are times when we cannot manage. Most of the time you can, and if you can, go ahead, do it by yourself. But if you need help, don't be ashamed to ask your mother for help. Okay? There are times when you have to inform your parent about it. Remember, in the end, a person who pressurizes you more than you are capable of tolerating is not your friend, no matter how passionate he is about you. That type of friendships where passion is so high, loving is so dramatic, but liking is less, that is not going to last. Friendship, okay, love is there, physical intimacy is there, but the most important thing is, do you like that boy? Does the boy like you? Do you respect him? Does he respect you? If that liking is not there, the respect is not there. If he's not willing to suffer, okay, she doesn't like it, so I'll stop, even though I'm very angry with her, but still I'll continue to be friend. If he's not willing to be that, if the liking is less, if the passion is too much, if the liking is less, if he doesn't respect you less, then that friendship is not worth it. Any friendship to last has to have liking, a strong liking, and a strong respect for each other. Love is just the coating on the cake. Like love by itself, physical intimacy by itself, they are inadequate. How do you say no? Remember, I've already told you, but remember one thing. This is your boyfriend. He is your good friend. Don't argue with him. You can't argue this kind of thing. These are very emotional things. You can't argue. So if he's trying to pressurize you, don't argue. Yes, no, maybe. It's not possible. Just say, I don't like it. I am unhappy. You are making me unhappy. Let's postpone it. I am not ready for it. Don't argue. Always be gentle. Don't argue. Don't get angry. Because if you get angry, tomorrow you'll separate. And tomorrow when he sees you, he'll remember your anger. And so you have lost a friend. That can happen. So don't get angry. Never use harsh language. Always use gentle language. But say no firmly. That is your right. Say no firmly, but in gentle language, so that even no matter how offended he is, tomorrow when you see him, if he's your true friend, if he really loves and respects you, he will come back to you. By the way, is there always don't you think you should think of your side of it also? Some girls like the idea of a little bit of early sex with their boyfriends, physical intimacy. And the only thing that they forget is that physical intimacy might be very interesting and all that. But if you are not careful, if it goes beyond a limit, either the girl or the boy or both can lose their self-control. So make sure that you know what you're doing. I'm not saying this is right, that is wrong. That is for you to decide. I am not here to judge you or to guide you beyond a limit. But remember, ask yourself, do I have the maturity to handle this? Some girls like to have a little bit of fun, physical intimacy, so that the boy will love me much more if I give in to whatever he says. The thing is, if you give in to whatever he says to make him love you, he will love you more and more. The more and more you give him, the next, and it becomes an addiction, a thirst. That thirst keeps on building up day by day by day, and it has no ending. So that is a problem. That remember that if you try to bribe somebody into liking you, that bribe will become bigger and bigger and finally intolerable sometimes. Some children, girls, do these things because they want to behave like an adult. Remember that adults have lots of responsibilities, and are you ready to take the responsibilities that can occur following physical intimacy? Some girls do it for sexual satisfaction. Yes, we are all human beings, boys and girls. Sexual satisfaction is part of life. It's a God-given satisfaction, happiness to us, but are you ready for it? If you lose your control, things can go bad. So always remember that there should be a balance. Some girls are just rebellious. They want to rebel against their parents. They want to show off that they are modern, they are fashionable. They'll send sexy photos of themselves to their boyfriends, and tomorrow the boyfriend loses interest in them and sends that sexy photo to all his friends in revenge. So be careful. Some girls like to be very, very forward with all the boys, not just with one boy, with all the boys, because I love to be popular. I love to be, friendly, have lots of friends among the boys. It's nice. But always remember, is being popular worth it? Just remember that there are certain risks involved with physical intimacy. I'm not trying to frighten you, but you should know the basics. One is rarely teenage pregnancy. It's not that rare like you think. There are ways of hiding these things, aborting things. But remember, if something happens, the boy who was passionately in love with you is going to disappear from the scene. If a reputation is destroyed, it's going to be yours. Okay, you can get into trouble. At the age of 15 or 18, imagine if something happens and it continues continues for 9 months. Your studies are ruined, your future is ruined, your job facilities, your everything. You'll be in hand, you'll have a baby. And how are you going to continue with your studies or get a nice career? Okay, now this is an extreme case. Okay, but I should frighten you this too much. This is an extreme case. But another very common thing is there. A little more common, sexually transmitted diseases, like that girl who was forced by a boyfriend, trapped by a boyfriend actually, and she gave in to him, and 1 week later she was lucky, she had severe vaginal pain. She went to the gynecologist who diagnosed it correctly and gave her, so she had a sexually transmitted disease and gave her the medications for it, and in 1 week's time she was okay. She was very lucky. She got a sexually transmitted disease which causes pain. Therefore, she had no choice but to get treated, and she got cured. The sad part is there are some sexually transmitted diseases, a very common condition called chlamydiasis, which need not cause any symptoms whatsoever. It just comes into you and causes and stays there and causes a lot of chronic damage. And 10 years from now, the girl finds out that she has very reduced fertility. And also she has a lot of, periods are unusually uncomfortable. She has very irregular periods. Also the funny complaints she has. And how is she going to know that it's because of something that happened 5 or 10 years ago, okay. So if you're going to get an STD, plead that you get a painful STD. But the commonest of all these problems in girls is depression. You feel that you're giving yourself to your boyfriend. I love him passionately. I'm going to give him everything. And you give him everything and you're very happy. But once he gets attracted to once it goes beyond a limit, he loses interest. Okay, this is free. I'm enjoying. If there's somebody else who's going to give him all these things, or is giving more than you are willing to give, more than you are willing to give, he'll move in that direction. And then the girl feels oh, I gave everything to him. I have been totally committed to him. And now he has betrayed me. He's a cheat. He's gone to somebody else. And the girl feels depressed. This is extremely common. There are girls who commit suicide. There are much more commonly girls who stop studying because they don't want to go and see their boy's face again. Girls who just spoil their own happiness. It's not worth it. Being friendly is good. Having a boyfriend is good. Having friends is very, very important. But remember that if the more committed you become at such a young age, things that happen below the age of 20 years very, very rarely last long. Okay? Adolescent love affairs, no matter how passionate, generally, most of them, just think of your friends or ask your mother. Just think about it. Most of them, 99% of them, end suddenly. And when it happens, it's if there has been, when it happens, you will be unhappy, he'll be unhappy. Okay, that's fine. That happens to everybody. It's for a few days. But if there has been too much of sexual intimacy, then when it happens, girls especially, they feel totally broken up and they feel miserable. And some of them need treatment for depression, and rarely we even come across suicide. Okay, now my last message to you is that girls are not inferior to boys. They're not superior. They have some advantages and disadvantages we have mentioned earlier, but basically they are just different, and that's how it should be. We have two sexes, boy and girl, and that is why there is so much of happiness in this world. Just imagine if all the people in this world were girls. Life would have been half the fun of life would have gone away. Okay, but there is unfortunately too much of gender discrimination. We differentiate between boys and girls. We differentiate between them. We say, okay, girls, first of all, we start by making them dress differently in order to make a difference. Good, that's okay. But now we say, okay, girls should behave differently, boys should behave differently. Girls should think, talk, and behave in such and such a manner. Discrimination is unfortunately there. We say that looking after babies and children is the mother's job. To some extent, it is true. It's only the mother's job. Okay, so we say that. Hello? Okay, so we say, okay, looking after babies and children is a mother's job. That's true. She's the one who's giving birth to the baby. She's the one who breastfeeds the baby. These things can't be done by the father. But everything else in the care of a child can be done by both mother and father. And why should it not be done? Why should not men play a bigger role in looking after babies? It was a prejudice. 200 years ago, 100 years ago, the life was different. Men were, even 50 years ago, women were having 4, 5, 10 children. So you are continuously having babies and continuously breastfeeding babies and continuously feeding the babies. And where is the time to go and work? So you sit at home and look after the babies, and the father has to go and get some work. Okay, that was okay in the past. Today, you're all having one child, two children, and of course, once you have one child, you're going to lose 6 months. You're going to keep away from your job. You're going to look after the child. That is common. And 2 children, okay, then 6 months plus 6 months, 1 year of your life, you may fall back a little compared to the others. 1 year out of 70 years is nothing. After that, you come back into this world, and men and women share in this world. Husbands and wives share in the workload, and women do not have to look back. Women do the same work that men do. Women go study hard. Women study just like men. Women work just like men. Disciplining naughty children is the father's job. A very bad misconception. In the past, not today, but in the past 50 years ago, disciplining means using the stick. Okay, the mother will love the children and the father will hold a stick in his hand, and if the boy does anybody, and he will not show affection to his children, and if the children are mischievous, immediately he'll beat them. That was disciplining. That is old-fashioned. It was our ignorance of your grandfathers and great-grandfathers. That situation has changed. Now we know there's a better way of disciplining. Love your children. Love your children. Loving your children, unconditional love for them is the petrol in the car. It is the accelerator which helps them to grow fast. But you need, the car also needs a brake. When the child makes a mistake, there has to be a break. You have to tell the child, this is not right. That is discipline. This is not right. Don't do this. And if he still does it, you scold him. Not because you don't love him, but because he needs a break. Scold him. And if he's still doing mischief, repeats the mischief, you beat him sometimes, or you don't have to beat him most of the time. You can just scold him strongly. That is disciplining. And he gets, oh my God, my mother loves me so much. My mother cares so much for me, but now she's scolding me. Now she's not looking at me. Now she's upset with me. So the child is so upset that Tomorrow she'll come and say sorry, and tomorrow she won't do this. That is discipline. You don't have to use a stick. That is old-fashioned. You just by showing a lot of affection when he does good things and all the time, and withholding affection for 5 minutes or half an hour when he does something very mischievous, telling her, I don't like this, what you have done. This is wrong. Huh? That is the punishment, all the punishment that a mature child needs. That is punishment. And that punishment should be given by whichever person is there on the spot. If the mother is there on the spot when the child is wrong, it's the mother who should discipline. And if the mother is the one who the child cares for more, it is the mother who should discipline. Because the more love you have for the child, the more the child loves you, the more the child will feel upset when you stop showing affection to him, when you scold him. Therefore, disciplining is not the father's job. It is both father's and mother's job. And it is especially the job of whichever parent the child loves more. And ideally, the child will love both parents equally more. Earning mother is the man's responsibility. That was true 200 years ago, because women are having 5-10 children. They are so busy looking after the children, feeding the children, breastfeeding the children, having babies. They didn't have time to work. Today, the situation has changed. We all know men and women are all going for work, and that's beautiful, because a double income, I'm telling you from experience, double income is a big advantage. Cooking and housework are for women. Right, in the past, it used to be like that. Today, why should it be like that? Why can't men also do all these things? Why can't men and women share in the housework? That is what is happening today. The attitudes are changing. That we of the 20th century have already changed. Your parents have already begun to change a lot from the 19th century, 20th century. There has been lots of difference. And now you are the 21st century. You are lucky. So much more of changes occurring. All these discriminations are coming down. I'm not saying that they are not there. There is plenty of discrimination. Let's be clear about it. There is still plenty of discrimination, but it is noticeably decreasing, especially among the educated, especially among the who have a better understanding. The wife should give her salary to her husband. That is a very pathetic form of discrimination. You know, the husband has in the past, he used to earn the money, and he used to therefore he's the one who's doing all the shopping. He is spending the money. He holds the power in his hand. And today, supposing the husband today is a drunkard who doesn't have a job, or who has some job, but half of it he spends on alcohol. So he can't manage. He can't show off anything with that little bit of money that he has. So he says, okay, the wife should give her salary to me, and I will manage the money. So even if I am useless, at least I can pretend to be a male by showing my wife's income. It's a very shameful thing that happens, especially among the less educated. The wife need not give her salary to the husband, or vice versa. In fact, I would say when long ago, not today, I'm very comfortably off, but long ago, in the beginning, we had some financial difficulties, and whenever I earned my salary, I used to go and give it to my wife. You know why? It didn't really apply to me, but when you give money to a woman, I'm talking about a family, okay? The mother, the first thing she will do is my children's food, my children's clothing, my children's schooling, my children. She will spend all the money on the children, and of course on the husband and wife also. You give too much money to a male, you know what he'll go and do? He'll go and buy a bike which he cannot afford. He'll go and buy a car which he cannot afford. And his children, he doesn't even know that his children haven't bought all the textbooks. He doesn't know about the school fees. So in the beginning, long ago, whenever I earned my salary, I used to go and give it to my wife. Of course, this is long ago. Okay, now I'm a doctor. I got a good salary. I have all these are not necessary, but it was the situation 20-30 years ago. Boys should not play with dolls. That's old-fashioned ideas. Boys, girls, babies, infants, toddlers, they play with all toys equally, and let them play with toys equally. Give them all the toys. Let them decide what they want to play with. There is a small genetic difference. Men have more of testosterone, women have more of estrogen and progesterone. Women have more of a nurturing instinct, and so girls will see their mothers and they also will want to nurture. They will want to feed the doll and bathe the doll and dress the doll and all that. That is there in both boys and girls, but it is a little more in girls. Nothing wrong with that. Give them dolls, boys and girls. After some time, after they pass a certain age, boys will be less interested in the dolls and more interested in cars, while the girls will show a slightly different attitude. If a natural difference occurs, that's perfectly normal. Let them choose. But even if a 10-year-old boy has a favorite doll or a teddy bear, nothing wrong. Let them play with what they really want to. Don't discriminate. Okay, only men can drive cars. Why is that? Why should that be true? Why should only men drive cars? Why can't women drive cars? In my time, I live next to the hospital. I didn't need a car. My wife is working as a college lecturer far away. She has to take 2 buses, 1 hour traveling. So we got a car and she's going by car, and just 20 minutes if she's going by car. Otherwise it's 1 hour. And 20 years ago in Kerala, in a rural area, woman driving a car, everybody used to stare. Something abnormal. That was 20 years ago. That was 20th century. This is 21st century now. Or even in our hospital, all the staff nurses are coming on 2-wheelers. Almost all of them are coming on 2-wheelers. And nowadays, women driving cars, I mean, it's a routine. Okay, so these are attitudes which are changing. Important decisions should be made by men. Important decisions can be made by men and women, and we will come to that. Huh? There used to be an attitude that men should not cry in public. Crying is shameful. Men have this attitude. Women don't mind if they see a man crying, but men feel ashamed to cry. We are tough, we are rough, we are rude, we are masculine. We must not cry. That is a stupid attitude. So what happens in a hospital if a person dies? The women will all be sitting there and crying, and the men, oh my God, they want to cry. Some of the men, usually the men will cry. And after some time, they'll begin to gain control of their symptoms, of their feelings. And, crying really helps you to get a catharsis. And then they do the needful. They take the child, the expired person home and so on. But some men don't know how to show a cry. They feel it's a shame to cry. And they are full of emotion, full of stress. And how do you get rid of the emotional stress? By yelling and screaming. Because you're a male. If you can't cry, you can become violent. That's the only emotion they know. So they yell and scream a lot. And that is a very bad thing. Fortunately, I think that attitude is also beginning to change. There is no need. There's nothing wrong if men cry in public. And this attitude, definitely real men play with their children. Nowadays, men are no longer ashamed to play with their children. Men no longer walk with sticks in their hands. Men play with their children very happily. And it's actually good because men and women play slightly different. Women like to sit and play a lot of games. You can sit and play building blocks and so on. Men like to run around and play a little because our bodies are made slightly different. Okay, we are physically a little stronger. We like to run around and play. And outside play, men actually, the children actually like playing with the men because men will move around faster, move around in more ways. They're playing ball, playing shuttle, playing cycling, all these things, men are better. So children who have 2 parents to look after them, their mother and their fathers play with them, they are at a massive advantage. And I think most of you can know what I'm saying is true from your own personal experience. Real men play with children. And it's not only that, playing with children is very satisfying and it increases the emotional satisfaction and makes the man emotionally more mature. Okay, so there was this attitude that the man should drive the car. Suppose there's a car at home and both of you are going, you know what? Women are much better drivers. Women, if you want to go from point A to point B, men want to drive fast. They want to overtake, they're aggressive. They want to overtake 3 people and reach there first, and they reach there in 18 minutes. The woman doesn't want to overtake anybody. She just wants to go from point A to point B. She goes calmly and she takes 20 minutes. He took 18 minutes. What's the difference? The difference is that men have much more accidents than women. Okay? It's not necessary. My wife is a good driver and she loves driving. I find it very boring. So what we do is when we go together, it's always the wife who drives. And people used to think it's trained in the past 20 years ago. Today, it's taken for granted. I mean, we always go like that. Nobody comments on it. Nobody asks, why is it like that? In the past, they used to thought it was very strange. And what is the great deal about driving a car or a 2-wheeler? Nowadays, women pilots are increasing in number and taking over the air, driving flying planes in larger and larger numbers. So what's so great about driving a car? And engineers, doctors nowadays in Kerala, the girls are actually doing better in the NEET exam, and there are much more girls going into medical college than boys, at least Kerala. I don't know about Mumbai. Engineers, I feel so, I'm slightly silly on my part, but I felt a little envious. Okay, my niece, 22 years old, 22, that's all. She did civil engineering and she just got her results. And in 1 month's time, on February 28th, she joins Accenture. Accenture is a digital company. They don't even have civil engineers. And now for some special project, they've taken 1 or 2 civil engineers and this girl gets in. Okay, she was a good student. She gets into Accenture and she's earning 5 or 6 lakhs at the age of 22 years. And I was thinking, oh my God, at the age of 22, I was studying, and at the age of 28 also, what kind of a salary was I getting? And I'm feeling jealous. You people are so lucky. You girls nowadays, they have such opportunities. You are actually doing better in your studies than in the good schools. IIT, NIT, boys and girls are all studious. In the average schools, engineering colleges, the girls are being most studious. They play, they enjoy sports, cultural activities, but also they study. And because of that, they write the exams, they pass the exams in the first attempt, and they get jobs. And the boys, stupid fellows, oh, we are free from our family, and they go playing and playing and playing and playing non-stop. They don't have time to study. They don't have time to write exams. And a 4-year course takes 5 and 6 years. And while the boys are doing badly, the girls are all going and snatching the good jobs in the average engineering colleges. This girl is so lucky. You people are so lucky. Your generation is so much luckier than our generation. I'm really happy. Okay, little bit of envy, please excuse. You people are very lucky. You are doing very well in life nowadays. Last week, I'm sure one of you would have read in the newspapers, there was a gender discrimination study which was published in all the newspapers, Times of India, every newspaper. And among the various questions that were asked, men and women both said that men and women are equally good as political leaders. You know, the attitudes are changing. Formerly, they said that men should make all the, in the past, men should make all the important decisions. Now they're saying that men and women are equally good as political leaders. Where did this change come from? By seeing Indira Gandhi, Sonia Gandhi, Mamata Banerjee, like Lalita in the south, Mayavadi, they are seeing so many female political leaders, and some of them are doing really good. And now they agree, no, politics, women also can do very well in life. And then immediately after that, the next comment is, a wife should always obey her husband. Both the women and the women are saying, yes, that's correct. A wife should always obey her husband. And I agree with them, it is correct. My wife should always obey me. But also, a husband should always obey his wife. That was not studied. That question was not asked, which is foul. A wife should always obey her husband. That's why he got married. And the husband should always obey his wife. Okay, they should both always discuss all important matters. They should listen to each other. And if the one person is strongly against something, the other person should agree and obey. All decisions should come together, and maybe sometimes a little compromise is required. But that is the purpose of getting married, right? Another great change. Both the husband and the wife should earn money for the family. That is the 21st century concept that we are seeing, which is a great change. Nowadays, that is required. Both the father and the mother should take care of the child. So attitudes in this recent study, last week it was there in the papers, the attitudes have changed. That's a great thing. One of the reasons why your 21st century, there's so much of change is that, okay, first of all, you're seeing a lot of you're studying in co-educational schools. Your fathers, especially your grandparents, boys studied in boys' schools and girls studied in girls' schools. And so what happens? We boys at the age of 15, 20, we had no idea what is a girl. Colleges also were girls' colleges, boys' colleges. We had no idea what is a girl, and the girls had no idea what is a boy. And so they had very strange attitudes towards each other. So that person is somewhere from outer space. Okay, so they didn't know how to behave towards each other. That I'm not blaming any. We were like that. It was a bit unpleasant when you think about it. Now, you people nowadays, my children were not like they studied in co-educational schools. So what happens is right from the first standard onwards, you can see each other and you can see that, okay, I wear ponytails, he doesn't wear, he cuts his hair short. I wear a frock, he doesn't. But otherwise, he and I are behaving in exactly the same manner in all things. Whether it's in studies or in games or in sports, everything, we are all so similar. The differences are negligible. We are very similar to each other. So with that, you grow up with that attitude of seeing all the similarities and some minor but pleasant differences. And so you grow up appreciating and respecting each other. That is what is wanted. You girls are lucky. Working in the house. Women in the past, they had to work a lot in the house, so they taught their daughters to work in the house. And what I say is, Why are men not taught these things? Boys should be taught to that studying is important, play is important, study is important, a little work is important. Keep your bed clean, keep your table clean, keep your room clean, and even help a little bit in the kitchen. Life is beautiful only if you have a mixture. Maturity consists of full. If you want to live fully, you must study, you must work, you must play. All should be there in proportion. Boys are missing that proportion, which is a disadvantage, but they used to miss that. Today, I'm sure there's a lot of as you know, a lot of change is occurring. The times are changing. Mamata Banerjee is still ruling West Bengal, and in some states at least, the girls are really doing well as doctors. In Kerala now, there's no job where you have to say this is only for men or this is for women. You have women climbing coconut trees, you have women driving two-wheelers, and even one or two women driving big trucks. And we know about all these world champions. Konano Humpy, she in between for a few years, she gave up chess because she had a child and she said, no, I'm not interested in chess. And she looked after her baby and after her family for a little while. And then she came back. And now she's world number 3 again. Oh, she dropped in the ratings, just fell off the ratings. So now she's back. Okay, so she had to give up a little bit. That happens to many women when they have children. They drop back a little bit for a short time, 6 months, 1 year, but then they come back. So she's doing very well. Sania Mirza, Sindhu, Chinnappa, and even the latest Lovelina Borgohain in the Olympics, she got a bronze. Mirabai Chanu in the silver in the Olympics. And just 2 days ago, I don't know whether you noticed, in 2 days ago, you're on Mumbai Stars, Priti Mandana. She scored 123 runs in just 119 balls and smashed the opposition. So women are doing well for India today, and boys and girls are all equally smart and doing equally well in the world today. My best friend is always somebody who is more or less equally educated as me, more or less equally intelligent as me. Our best friends are our equals. My wife is my equal. That is why I am so happy today. And thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Thank you, sir, for an excellent session. And I think all the girls who have joined might have liked like us. There are a few questions, especially related to the girls and their growth, that girls, they need more self-care as well as hygiene, and they are having different health crises as compared to boys.
Yes.
So how to advise about that?
Madam, this is basically, it's very important. The girls should be taught at least by their mothers and also in schools and also by the IAP about self-care, because menstruation is not an issue for boys. It's a big issue for girls. It's a normal part of life. It's a very most important part of life. If you don't menstruate, what's going to happen? You're going to have one ovum in your body for 10 years until you get married. You have to have changing ova every month. Your ovum should always be fresh so that when you have a baby, you have the healthiest possible baby. Menstruation is essential for life. Men also have. So what is happening is menstruation is a great thing, but it's an uncomfortable experience. A little more hygiene is required. I'm not going to deviate from the topic here, but I feel that it's always when I talk only for girls, if you talk too much about menstruation with boys, it gets confusing. But when I talk to girls, I always give a big part of my talk to especially for the younger girls especially, detailed discussion on menstruation, menstrual hygiene. I am not saying it now, but I say once more that it is the most important part of any education program for adolescent girls, especially before the age of 15 years. We need to explain in detail. It is the most important part of any menstrual talk, of any adolescent talk for girls.
Is that the girls are vulnerable emotionally. They are very vulnerable. Their moods, they changes more frequently than boys. What is your take on that, and how to control those emotions?
In girls, the emotional changes are a little more obvious. especially because it is related to menstruation, there is a problem that some girls have significant emotional stress as a part of menstruation alone. Now, the problem is the menstruation has two problems. One is the physical part, and the second is the emotional part. If the girls are taught, it used to be very common in the past, but I think it's changing now. At least in Kerala, yes, it's a routine now. Girls used to be taught that menstruation, when you have menstruation, the mother says, oh, a nuisance has started for you also already. Now, the rest of your life, you're in trouble. Okay, now this is what you do. This is how you may keep yourself clean. So the girl understands, oh, I'm a loser. From today onwards, I'm a loser. So she has a physical problem. On top of that, she has an emotional problem that I am a negative, I am a loser. So it creates a lot of stress, and every menstruation becomes a catastrophe for her. Today, we know that menstruation is a normal, healthy thing. Women know. In the past, adult women did not know what's happening. Now we are educated. Even the girls, to some extent, they are educated, but that's not enough. Girls need adults to tell them specifically that this is normal, even though they already know from their textbooks that it is normal, that this is normal, that this is healthy, that this is an important and essential part of your life. And they should be proud. When my daughter, and she was very lucky. We had already told her a little bit, like when she was 10 years old, already her body started changing shape. So I told my wife, once you see the body changing shape, the breast start developing, the hips start widening. I just told her, even though she's only 10, let's talk to her. So my wife just called her aside and showed her some sanitary pads advertisement and said, see, okay, now this kind of a thing is going to happen to you. And we women use this to protect ourselves. I use it regularly. And when it happens to you, don't go and tell daddy and mommy about it. Come in, daddy and your brother about it. Tell me. Okay, I want to know about it. Immediately it happens. It's a proud thing. It means that you're going to become a woman. So my daughter is very excited. And just 6 months later, luckily, it happened in her maternal house. Okay, it happened. She calls her mother and says, Mama, just come, and takes her to the bathroom and shows her. So my wife immediately hugged, oh, from today onwards, you're an adult just like me, and takes her to the grandmother, and the grandmother hugs her and gives her a chocolate, and she's so happy. And the two aunts are there, they come and congratulate her. So she is now an adult. So she felt so proud of it. And afterwards, of course, my wife explained in great detail and took care of her. And so there was no emotional stress at all. She was proud to be an adolescent, to be an adult, to becoming an adult at the age of 10 and a half years. And for the next 3 years, she was actually a peer guide to all her classmates, because she was the first in her class for this to happen. So that positive attitude was, once you have a positive attitude, the negatives of a menstruation go away. The negatives of menstruation is basically keeping yourself clean. That, especially if you can use sanitary pads, it's not a big deal at all. Then there's a problem of pain. Even that is not a problem if you can take painkillers. So I'm not saying that it's the easiest thing in life. There are some difficulties, but it's not a big issue. Once girls take a positive attitude towards it, the rest can be managed. But it is a duty of the IAP and of every mother to create that positive attitude in the girls. Once that is there, the emotional things are all secondary. They can easily be managed. Then there are some girls who actually do have too much of fluid collection in their body during menstruation, premenstrually, and they get upset, they become irritable. Here, a little bit of tablets once in a way may be required. If there's too much of the premenstrual syndrome, these things can be managed. The pain and the emotional disturbance that can occur and do occur, especially in late adolescence, they should be managed by a gynecologist or a pediatrician. They should not be, passed away as in the past. Oh, it's all part of our suffering. Nothing doing. When I have a headache or a fever, I take paracetamol and I go for work. If this girl has a problem, she should take whatever is required and go for work. So that positive attitude, okay, you have a problem, but it's not a great attitude. With that, most girls can manage. Little bit of stress is there for both boys and girls. I'm not talking about boys' stresses. It's all part of life. Madam, cannot hear you. You are muted.
Yeah. So how we have to tell about prevention of violence?
No, the prevention of violence. Now the boy is violent. One person is going to be violent. What can you do, madam? He's going to be violent. So the thing is, the early signs of, if it happens suddenly, the girl is in trouble. But most of the time, these things build up slowly. So if the girl has a good relationship, if she knows him carefully, she should know whether and when to try to be careful, and she should not put herself into situations where she gets stuck. Like, for example, if you have a small little gathering, some 3 or 4 boys, or 2 girls and 2 boys get together in for a party, that's kind of dangerous. If it's a big function and there are lots of you, nothing dangerous can happen. So little bit, girls should be a little careful that they should not go and do something stupid. They should not go and jump into trouble. But sometimes girls will get into trouble with the very best of intentions. So they should be aware of it. We can only tell, once something happens, they have to be cautious. What else can I say, madam? I have discussed in between about the problems of physical intimacy and how girls can, to a great extent, manage it. But we cannot say 100%. So girls, with all the very best of intentions, can and do get into problems, and it's not their fault.
Very good. Thank you so much. And we are enriched with the knowledge, especially all the youngsters who have joined. May I invite school principal who has just joined, is Honorable Mr. Alfonso Siqueira, for his valuable inputs, because he deals with a lot of children more than pediatricians.
Excuse me,
Over
madam.
to sir. Yeah. Please invite.
Yeah, excuse me, madam. We are honored to welcome Mr. James Siqueira. He is an English trainer at Trinity Academy at home. And we are also honored to welcome Mrs. Alfonso Siqueira, who is heading an NGO named as a PAR. So we are delighted to welcome both of you. And we want to put, we request to put their valuable inputs for this program. Welcome, sir and madam.
I'm sorry for the wrong pronunciation.
That's
Please.
okay. Thank you. Thank you, doctors. I think we feel belittled because I heard what doctor was talking about to the boys, you know, and it was such a beautiful information, quite informative and enriching session, I should say. And I'm going to definitely, I told Dr. Shruti that I'm going to make it viral, like, you know, I'm going to send it to many people so that boys really get benefited. Am I clear, audible?
Yes.
I'm in my workplace, actually. Sorry for the background noise and all. So I just, abruptly finished my class because Dr. Shruti was, there. And I said, yes, we are with you. Doctor, you have given, I think, wonderful session. Girls, I joined at the end, actually. I'm sorry. But the boys session, I went through the whole thing. It was really enriching. I think it should reach many years, not just 10, 12, 1500. No, it should reach many years, many hearts, many minds. This morning, Alfonso and myself at home, we had our nephew who has come from Mangalore, who had come with a baggage of loads, worries, tensions. And we just spoke to him and half of it was relieved, he felt. So if we ordinary people speak like this and it is relieved, when you speak to him, we go to Dr. Shruti and it is amazing, amazing how she can use that magical touch and get people off their physical and psychological ailments. It's amazing to see over, I think, 3, 4, 5 years I've seen that. Amazing, yeah. I mean, so we are grateful, we are lucky. And I think I'll ask Alfonso, she is there. I don't know if she has joined to share a few words.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, you're there. Okay.
I'm here. Yeah.
Welcome, ma'am.
Alfonso
Thank
is
you.
my wife.
Thank you, ma'am, for the invitation. I'm very sorry. I just got the link and I joined immediately. Sir, I'm also in my workplace and there is a lot of background noise because my office is in midst of a slum area. And as ma'am said, I work with an NGO. I had an NGO here which works in the slums of Chitakem and Mankur area. Yes, we come across a number of cases among the adolescents and among the teenager girls and boys both. We though it is for both boys and girls, but I come across often with the girls, and sometimes also we come across boys, and we at times when we speak to them, they come out with this very personal problems, and we really feel a little bit of embarrassed to know how to proceed. And I'm sure this sort of sessions will enrich our knowledge and our skills to help them out. Just to give an example, last week in my near my office there are some mud bags, and I wanted those mud bags to be shifted to another center. So one boy volunteered to come, and he came to speak, and then while he was speaking, just speaking about the quotation, like the charges what he will charge me to take those box. Then he said, I have only 2 days to do, because after 2 days I have to go somewhere out. So just out of curiosity, I asked him, is it something to do with your exams? Then we can postpone it. But apparently the answer what he gave me was it was he was going for a sort of illegal work, and he was in a dilemma to understand whether it's right, what the decision what he is doing is right or wrong. On one hand, the necessity for money, his family burden, and on the other hand, this anxiety whether he is doing the right thing or wrong. And also, while I was speaking to him, I came to know that he is also influenced under drugs for a number of years. So it become very difficult situation for me to handle him, because I don't have anything to offer. What I can offer him for that one day, but what he needs is a long term solution to come out of it. So slowly, that particular day, I could just convince him that, beta, what you are doing, as your own conscience is doubting it, please don't go ahead with it, and just hold on for some time, because the reasons what you are stating may not be true for you tomorrow. So hold on. So we come across such incidents, and I have been thinking a number of times that I would like Dr. Shruti ma'am to come over and speak to my team. How helpful it has been in every session. Whenever we go for personal work to her, the information what we get helps us. So I'm sure the team will also get, and I'm happy to have this session, attended this session. I regret that I joined very late, because I got a very few information. I feel really I have missed out a lot of things, and I'm sure I would be able to get something more in future to come across such sessions. And I would be very interested. And I thank you for the entire team to have us in this.
Thank you. Thank you very much, madam.
Thanks to all the doctors involved. Yes.
Yes.
Thank
Pleasure,
you.
actually, because we feel we are strengthened when we are working
Yes.
with the youngsters. We feel
Yeah.
we are strengthened. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for your valuable input, sir. And this session is recorded. So we have this session on YouTube. So we'll personally share the link with you, so you can forward it to whomever you want to share with. So you
Sure.
haven't missed anything. We have everything recorded for you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you.
We can share it many times to many more. And
Sure.
yeah, it is very touching and a very great session today. I thank Dr. Newton for this, and I welcome Kiran ma'am, and I ask her to give her expert, because the whole idea about this talk was hers, and I invite ma'am to say.
Hello, all of you, my team, the Sequira couple, and the invited guest, and all you youngsters listening now and later on. All of you, I'm sure, will benefit from the wisdom that Dr. Newton has shared with us. I'm glad I selected him. I'm glad I made that choice. And do I regret it? No, not at all. Nobody regrets it. Thanks, Newton. Thanks for being for accepting the invite and doing such a good job. I've heard you before, and I went on repeating this to my team. I'm sure I'm making a good choice, and you will all agree with me at the end of the talk. I don't have much to say. And Sequoias, we are blessed to have people like you. We are only making you bitwise, but you are the ones who are working with their hands, heart, and heads for the benefit of these children. And I give you an assurance that along with Shruti, all our team members will be there to guide you and do more work with you and to see that these teams bloom in a better way. I think that's the only thing that I can say. I'm too humbled for words, both by Dr. Newton's wisdom and the work of Sequoia's. Thank you, my team, for taking care of all these things. Thanks once again.
Thank you, Kiran ma'am, for your support. Thank you so much.
Wonderful, yes.
Thank you, Kiran ma'am, for your wonderful inputs. Now I request Dr. Amog to give vote of thanks.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Kalyani. There's just one word I would like to say at the end of this 2 hours talk, actually, Dr. Newton sir, and that is wow. Well, we had heard from Kiran Vaswani ma'am about your talk, and we really, after hearing it firsthand, we're amazed as how beautifully you've taken us through the transition, a beautiful transition of a teenager from a child and to an adult. And it was a superb session, a very heartfelt talk, sir. And you've taken us to the evolution of how the gender discrimination has changed from yesterday and to today. You've given us important pearls of wisdom, like how to respect each other, especially the teenage girls and boys. They respect the differences, and how to pleasantly but firmly say no, because this is really lacking in today's teens, the assertion or their confidence to say no. And you've touched upon important sensitive topics like teenage addiction, substance abuse, rash behavior in today's teens like aggression and violence, and also something really sensitive, especially for girls, like teenage pregnancies and STDs. And the question and answer session was beautifully moderated by Dr. Chitra ma'am, our own adolescent stalwart. Ma'am, we're very blessed to have you with us. And I think the end of the day, the message we received for today's session is, am I a smart girl or am I a smart boy? So you said that boys and girls are equally smart. So that's the take home message for today. And lastly, I would like to thank all the dignitaries, the Sequoia couple, the wonderful teenagers and their parents who have joined us today on YouTube as well as on Zoom. And I just request these teenagers to kindly stay tuned to our channel. We're going to have a lot of sessions coming up this week, a lot of interactive sessions. So you need to be tuned with us, and these topics are going to be very trending. So once again, a heartfelt thanks to Dr. Newton, sir, and to all of you present. And with this, we wrap up the session. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Thank you.